Hi, and welcome to the Nola Joy Carello Show. Believe it or not, I just happen to be Nola Joy Carello. Hopefully you will find my shows to be educational, informative, entertaining, and lots of fun. Today with me is Albert Howenstein, who's the Executive Director for the Office of Criminal Justice Planning. And also, we have my favorite, and yours too, popular crime dog, McGruff. Well, first, welcome,
Thank
Al.
you, Nola. My pleasure.
And McGruff, can I shake your paw? I'm over here. I know it's hard to see. Good day. All right. Al, it's so important to have McGruff with us because, you know, he's so concerned about crime prevention and safety tips, and I think you have some tips to share with us.
Well, McGruff was kind of in a hurry today because he does have some other things that he needs to do, but he asked me to remind the boys and girls of some very special tips that he always likes to impart because children are the ones that he's the most concerned about as he's fighting crime. And he always wants to remind our little boy and girlfriends out there that they should always let mom and dad know where they're going, that they shouldn't leave home and go play without letting mom and dad know where to find them, that if they're going to a friend's house or if they're coming home from school or going to a store, that they shouldn't take shortcuts through lonely and strange places. They should stay on the regular roadways and pathways and bicycle paths and areas where they'll be much more safe. And he also reminds them about strangers and people that you don't know, that you should never take candy from them, that you should never accept rides from them, that you should never go any place with them, that you always need to be sure to be very close to where your parents are, and that you want to be safe and you want to be sound. And those are McGruff's major messages to his little friends out there.
And those are good tips.
They're good tips.
You know, I have some additional tips that McGruff wanted me to share with the boys and girls, too. Boys and girls should never play with matches because fire destroys. It also kills. If boys and girls should see a crime or become hurt, or perhaps someone they love is seriously ill and they don't know what to do, they should call 911 for immediate help. Remember to stay on the line, do not panic, and do not hang up. And it's really easy to remember to call 911. Next, McGruff says that he and you and I are very concerned about bicycle safety tips.
Yes.
And so, McGruff, we want to remind everyone that a bicycle is not a toy. It's a means of transportation.
It's a vehicle.
That's right. So right now, Al, we want to thank our friend McGruff, who's in a hurry. You know what he's going to do? He's going to go out there in Sacramento and take a big bite out of crime.
Take a bite out of crime.
Okay, have a
McGruff.
great day.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you. Well, Al, as I introduced you earlier as the Executive Director of the Office of Criminal Justice Planning, and that's a long title.
It is.
Okay. What is the specific purpose of the Office of Criminal Justice Planning, and how does this office implement the goal of the governor to make California a safer place to live?
Our office has a very unique role, Nola Joy, in the whole criminal justice system. Our job is to support local community-based programs that are involved in crime prevention, to support law enforcement programs that assist policing agencies to apprehend criminals and to assist prosecutors to prosecute criminals, and to also serve and support victim service programs to help those who have been victimized by crime to recover from that and to understand the criminal justice system and to make them feel better about the system. We are in a unique position to plan and to make recommendations to the governor and to the legislature on the kinds of things that need to be done in California to make people feel safe in their own homes, to make them feel safe in their communities, to help the law enforcement agencies be more effective, and to be sure that anyone who is victimized by crime, that their rights are protected, that they're assisted through the court process, and that they receive the appropriate restitution and compensation, both from the state programs as well as from the criminal for the losses that they suffer. By doing all of these things, we think that we can make California a safer and a more enjoyable place to live than what it already is.
Well, I love living in Sacramento, so I think it's a great city. How can one improve the quality of life if one is a member of the Neighborhood Watch Group?
The Neighborhood Watch programs are one of the things McGruff is very, very excited about, too, because those are the mechanism by which neighbors get together to support one another to eliminate both the threat of crime as well as the fear of crime. Most often criminals get away with their behavior by burglarizing someone's home or stealing property or by assaulting people because no one wants to be involved and no one wants to talk about their neighbors or talk to their neighbors or be associated with their neighbors. So by becoming involved in Neighborhood Watch and getting to know your neighbors and getting to support one another, to become eyes and ears for the police department or for the sheriff's office, to report things that are out of line or that are wrong or who might be suspicious, and then to talk more about what else needs to be done in your community. What are other issues besides crime, besides burglary? What do we need to do about sexual assault and sexual violence, child abuse issues, issues that deal with things that need to be done in school, and truancy, the latchkey children. What do you do to be prepared for a disaster? What would happen if you had an earthquake?
Don't ask me.
No,
No, but we should
but
cover that sometime.
do you know in your neighborhood, you know,
No, we don't.
are there any nurses, any doctors, anybody who has
CPR?
CPR or emergency services training? Because a community after a disaster, just like a community when it's threatened by crime, its greatest strength is in its unity, and that's what Neighborhood Watch is all about.
So really what you're saying is everyone's responsibility to stop crime is just not the job for the cops.
That's
Because
right.
they can't be everywhere.
They can't be everywhere, and they can only be as good as people support them and ask them and report to them, and then they can do their job more effectively.
Now let's go back to kids for a moment. How do we teach kids, or perhaps you have programs that deal with this, to say no to drugs, no to gangs, and no to peer pressure?
You're right, we do. 4 years ago, the governor asked us to develop a very special program called the Governor's Youth Crime Prevention Program, and it has a curriculum that we've developed that can be used in all schools to help kids feel good about themselves, to know what's right or wrong, to feel positive in relation to friends who want them to do something wrong, to steal, to shoplift, to become involved in drugs. We have another major program the governor asked us to implement, and that's the Drug Suppression Prevention Program in schools, where the police department and the school district work together to help youngsters formulate positive attitudes about drugs and realize that the drugs are not fun. Drugs are the worst thing, and they destroy more lives and are involved in more criminal behavior than any other insidious threat. And people who are your friends, real friends, don't ask you to commit a crime, don't ask you to violate the law, and don't ask you to be using drugs because you know that you're going to hurt yourself and your loved ones by reason of it. And those are the basic parts of the program, is that help youngsters feel good about themselves and who they are, that they don't need drugs, that they don't need to be involved in criminal behavior to be accepted by the negative peers.
In other words, it's all right to be a nice person, right? We got to push that.
It's great to be a nice person. It's okay to say no to drugs. It's okay to say no to gang involvement. And it's okay to study in school.
And get good grades, too.
And get good grades. It really is okay. It may not be the thing that kids talk about as being the coolest, or whatever the phrase today may be, but it is the thing that makes people healthier, happier, wiser, and a lot safer.
Not only that, it's very important to show more respect for authority, too.
Well, and for themselves.
That's right.
If you respect authority, you respect yourself, because you are an authority.
Today it seems like kids have more money and more drugs are available. What's the major differences between gang-related cases and the traditional cases?
Well, that's the other thing that we're very concerned about today, is years ago, youth gangs were usually involved in territorial kinds of issues, that they would stake out their number of blocks in their community that were their territory that was inviolate, and if anybody did, there would be a fight. Today what we're finding is that these street gangs that used to just fight over territory and other stupid kinds of things, today are fighting over jurisdiction for dealing of drugs. And the levels of violence, the levels of armament, well, we've had cases in Southern California where 10 and 11 years old children are using real automatic weapons to defend in major drug dealing events. And so it's very scary to watch what is occurring by reason of this very violent transition of the old gang concept to this very insidious and violence in the areas of drug distribution.
You know, to me it seems like there's a deadly form of cancer spreading in our society when we become the victims. Many families are discarded forever. What can we do to help awaken society that perhaps legislation needs to pass harsher penalties for all crimes?
That's kind of funny, because I was just had some difficulty with some cases, or with some trying to improve the level of punishment for certain types of crimes. But we as a community need to feel very empowered, because it is our right and our authority to demand our protection. If you realize today, and you think about everybody in your community, that every one of us has in some way, shape, or form altered our life in recent years because of crime or the fear of crime. And we have given up the safety of our streets and our communities, and we've given up the freedom to use our parks. We've given up the freedom to go shopping at times when we want to. We have actually given up our freedom to a few hoodlums. And we shouldn't have to do that, because those who commit crime are only a minuscule percentage of our population, 2, 3, 4% of the population. Why should their criminal behavior, their predatory activity, their violent demeanor cause the rest of us to live in fear? There's a lot more of us. There's a lot more of us who believe in the law, who trust in the law to protect us, and who want to support the law. And we can just start standing up and standing tall by being involved in Neighborhood Watch, by supporting your police department, by talking to your neighbors, by letting your legislatures know what kinds of things you truly believe in, and you want the system to provide for you, to make it accountable to you. It's an empowerment of people, as we're talking about
So
today.
we have a lot of power and a lot of rights.
We have a lot of rights and a lot of power.
I know we're going to be running out of time soon, and we have so much to cover,
Yeah.
but before we do, I think there's a phone number that I would like to share with the audience. If they'd like to invite you, or just call you and McGruff about
Yes.
what they should do about crime in their neighborhood, you might want to call area code 916-324-9100. Is that correct?
That's our office number. But we can add 2 other numbers to that. And
All right,
that's
you may.
And I'm sorry I don't have them in my mind,
All
but you'll
right.
find them in the phone book.
All right.
It's your police department, the Sacramento Police Department, Sacramento Sheriff's Office. I know both Sheriff Craig and Chief would be very delighted, because they have effective crime prevention programs. Yolo County Sheriff's Office, El Dorado County Sheriff's Office, anybody who's in the viewing audience, by calling your local police department, they're also there to help, and they would like to help.
Before we leave, quickly, I know that senior citizens are really, they're easy targets for con games and mugging. What can they do to be not so vulnerable to these crimes?
What we almost have to say to senior citizens is to not be as trusting and as open as they have always been. They grew up in a generation when people were actually very honest and very trusting and very forthright in their behavior. And they always want to be nice, but they need to be suspicious. If anyone ever asks a senior citizen to be involved in a special scheme that sounds too good to be true, you know that it's too good to be true. That anyone who offers you a special deal on a roof repair is ripping you off. Anyone who comes to you and asks you to become involved in a bank examiner scheme, banks don't do that, neither does the FBI. They need to be questioning, and they always need to turn to their police department for the real truth.
I know I'm going to invite you back on real soon, because we have so much more to cover. Till next time, this has been Al Hauenstein, Executive Director for the Office of Criminal Justice Planning, and McGruff was here earlier. This has been Nola Joy Carello. Go out and make it a great and safe day.